It's now time for Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. It began as a podcast, went live on the net, and transformed into a full-blown empire. It's the only daily boxing talk show on the planet, hosted by the only guy with the balls to do it. Many have stepped into the ring. Many have tried to take the belt. And one by one, they've fallen. Another victim of the undisputed heavyweight champion of boxing talk radio. Talkin' Boxing with Billy C is on now.
My style is impetuous, my defense is impregnable, and I'm just ferocious. I want your heart.
We're coming to you live from the Billy C Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Caligiano. It's time for the Billy C Show. Good morning, good day, good evening. Blah, 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 blah. Whenever you're listening, whenever you're watching, what's up, man? Hope you had a happy 4th of July. Hope you got all your fingers and toes. You didn't blow your hands off or nothing like that. Hope everybody was safe and threw down a couple of hot dogs. Not like the Nathan's hot dog contest on Coney Island. I was watching it yesterday. Guy eats what? I think 72 hot dogs. 72. I mean, I brag if I can throw down 4 or 5, and halfway along the line I stop eating the buns. These are 72 with buns and everything. Oh my God. The Tidy Bowl man. He's going to have to be working overtime the next morning after that. But today's show is being brought to us in part by Sal's Neighborhood Pizzeria and Italian Restaurant located on beautiful St. Simon's Island in Georgia. Check out his website, www.salsneighborhoodpizzeria.com, or give my man a call, 912-268-2328, 912-268-2328. Find out why I go all the way to St. Simon's to get a decent slice of pizza. And geez, it's worth the trip for me. Check it out. Today's show is also being brought to us in part by my book, Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet, is available right now where all good books are sold. Check it out. Find out why we got a 5-star rating across the board, and find out why I'm trying to change the way history is written. Now, don't get me wrong. Tom Molyneux is an important part of boxing history and American history and black American history, but they're not giving him the credit that he's due. They didn't give him the credit that he was due when he was alive, and they're certainly not giving it to him today. Find out why I'm so adamant about getting Tom Molyneux the credit that he deserves. You're going to love the book. You can get a copy by visiting barnesandnoble.com or amazon.com. Or if you see me, I never leave home without them. I got plenty of copies. Oh, you're looking for a signed copy? Visit our website, www.billycboxing.com, and click on the book. You can't miss it. Coming up a little bit later, we got our blast from the past. This week, it's former world heavyweight champion and boxing Hall of Famer James Braddock. You might know him as the Cinderella Man. We'll be talking about him. Another request from you. If you guys have a request for a blast, all you got to do is drop me an email, billy@talkinboxing. That's TALKINBOXING.com. You can also drop me an email to get your thoughts and comments or questions read on air, like we got a bunch of emails to read in a little bit. But today, and we got Boxing Hall of Famer Larry Hazzard scheduled to join us too. Today, we still got aftermath of the Manny Pacquiao Jeff Horn fight, and ultimately Manny Pacquiao losing the fight. And I've been talking about it since the fight happened, and people are still communicating with it about it. And the bottom line is this: nobody loves or loved or still loves Manny Pacquiao more than me. I think that Manny Pacquiao was an extremely talented fighter. I think he was the best of his generation. I think he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, and I think he's an all-time great. I also believe that on my all-time great list, he will fall in somewhere in the top 25 for sure. And as a matter of fact, not that I want to even talk about Floyd Mayweather, because I don't think he's relevant to the sport of boxing today, especially with the circus that he's setting up with his fight with Conor McGregor. I honestly feel on my all-time great list, despite losing to Floyd and despite Floyd's success with being undefeated and making all the boatloads of money he's made, et cetera, that Manny Pacquiao will actually be higher on my personal all-time great list when it's all said and done than Floyd. And the reason I say that is because the level of excitement that Manny Pacquiao brought and still brings to the sport of boxing, and the excitement he brought inside the ring, and the challenges that he challenged himself and overcame, all those weight divisions, et cetera. But with that said, Manny Pacquiao's not the same fighter. Manny Pacquiao has nothing left to prove, and Manny Pacquiao has to look in the mirror right now and say, it's time to hang him up. It's time to hang him up. Manny Pacquiao has been there, done that. He's got nothing left to prove. There's no reason why Manny Pacquiao has to tarnish his career by becoming the proverbial gatekeeper, and that is what he's on his way of doing. Joining me right now is my partner in crime, Sal Santa Cola. Sal, what's your thoughts, man? I mean, it's time for Pacquiao to hang him up, right, brother?
Well, I'll tell you, Billy, we talked about this, and I often said that Manny Pacquiao's only and sole purpose for coming back to boxing was to challenge Floyd Mayweather for a rematch for the welterweight championship of the world, and to disprove the naysayers that his shoulder was one of the reasons why he lost that fight. I may disagree, but the bottom line is he did not take that course. It wasn't not his immediate urgency or step for whatever reason. Maybe. And I said the last thing and the worst thing he could do is stay around to be some fodder, some stepping stone for some young buck trying to make a name for himself. And ultimately last week with his fight with Jeff Horn proved to be a similar scenario of what we did not want to see from Manny Pacquiao. I was probably less impressed with Manny Pacquiao than I was more impressed with Jeff Horn. On some level, I think Jeff Horn is a good fighter, but Manny Pacquiao would have trouble. He's fighting over his weight class, I think, and I think he's 40 pounds something heavier than what he originally started fighting. And these guys are big guys, and these guys are dangerous young buck guys. I don't see him doing anything against a Keith Thurman. I don't see him doing anything against a Kell Brook, and I don't see him doing anything against an Errol Spence, except losing all three. So with that being said, how is he going to notch himself back on the top? I do not know. And for all intents and purposes, I think his political career ahead of him might be the mountains and the challenges he should pursue.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. And the other part of this whole Manny Pacquiao thing is, along with the losses come the excuses and the complaints. I mean, yeah. Listen, when we did our post-fight, I admit I had Manny Pacquiao winning the fight. I had Manny Pacquiao beating Horn 115-113 in what I call a close fight. But 115-113 score is a close fight. Boxing is subjective, especially close rounds. So, for me to hear a score of 115-113 in favor of Horn, to me is not a robbery. Just because Teddy Atlas goes off and wants to string up all of the judges and corrupt is all comes out of his mouth because remember Teddy Atlas, if you don't agree with Teddy Atlas, you're wrong. There's no discussion or anything else. You're wrong, is according to Teddy Atlas, and that's a problem for me because even though I say some things that people disagree with me on, that doesn't mean I'm right. I might think I'm right, but if somebody handed me a great explanation of why I'm wrong, I'm willing to accept it. Especially if they, hand me their case with, intelligent reasons why I'm wrong, I'm fine with it. I welcome it. But to see this, I mean, now it was reported yesterday that the Philippines Games and Amusement Board is asking the WBO to do a thorough review of the fight. And not only the fight itself, but the scoring and the referee, et cetera, et cetera. Wow. And then Manny Pacquiao says, "Oh, I support that." And it's like, give me a break. Listen, the fight is over. You lost. The one thing that I'm having a hard time with Manny Pacquiao is that he doesn't accept the losses. He did the same thing with Mayweather. There's no way that he beat Floyd Mayweather in that fight. There's no way. Now, the Manny Pacquiao diehard fans, they swear, and they're coming back saying that he beat Mayweather. He did not beat Mayweather. It was it was an uneventful fight. It was a boring fight. And then right after it comes the excuse. Listen, 4.4 million people watched Manny Pacquiao fight Jeff Horn. And although most of them feel that Manny Pacquiao won, it was a close fight. Now, does he have a rematch? He has a rematch clause. Many people on the inside say he's going to take it. I don't know. Even if he wins, what happens? Sal, let's say he wins the fight. Let's say they have the rematch. Let's say it happens in the Philippines, or they might have it right back in Australia again. What does that prove? Does that give Manny Pacquiao a chance to retire with a W? Or is he going to say, "Oh, now I'm back. I want to go after Floyd"? The Floyd fight is dead in the water because he lost the Horn.
Too late.
Right.
Too late.
He lost the Horn.
100% right.
Right. He lost. If he
100% right. It's done.
Right. If he beat Horn, maybe he could have had it. But that opportunity went out the window. Right.
That's off the table. 100% right. If he had beaten Horn, that would have been fuel for the fire to have a rematch, and even more so to unify some of these titles. But the bottom line is, like I said all along, there is no other reason why he should come back and make a case except for what he originally stated was to come back and rematch and have a fight with Floyd Mayweather. Didn't happen. And guess what? It's not going to happen now. And guess another thing, nobody's going to want to see it, and it's done.
Most people didn't want to see it anyway.
The only fight Manny Pacquiao can come back or should come back for is to free fight Jeff Horn and see if he could retire with a win and with a belt. That's about it.
Well,
otherwise he should stay retired.
Well, I tell you, as far as Floyd is concerned, he's got nothing to come back for. I mean, this joke of a fight that he's having against Conor McGregor is a fallacy. It's a con, just like a lot of his fights. But Floyd Mayweather, I mean, if he really wanted to challenge himself, maybe he goes after, because he hasn't demonstrated. Yeah, and listen, you could be the biggest Floyd Mayweather fan in the world, and if you don't want to admit that his skills have diminished too, then you're fooling yourself. But the truth of the matter is the only fights that I would be willing to even watch with Floyd would be for him to come back and challenge one of the top guys, like a Keith Thurman or even a Sean Porter, or even a Kell Brook. I mean, any of the top guys, Errol Spence. Other than that, both of these guys, put a fork in them, they're done. And the thing that bothers me the most is Manny Pacquiao has been complaining time and time again, making excuses. People are wondering, maybe it's, and I was critical of Freddie Roach, but people said, maybe it's time to change a trainer. Change a trainer?
Yeah.
Not at 38 years old. He should have made that change 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. You can't, as much as I thought that Freddie was inept to helping Manny Pacquiao, it seems to me Manny's not listening to him anyway. Not that he can understand him, but the truth of the matter is he's not listening anyway. You know what I'm saying, Sal?
Oh, 100%, Billy, and you are 100% correct. There comes a time he should have changed horses if he was going to a long time ago. And the bottom line is Manny's his own man, and he's going to get in a rhythm. Sure, people are going to advise him and say, hey, you should do this, you should do that. But the bottom line is once he gets in heat of the battle and the action, he'll probably just do what comes naturally, and that's the way he throws punches and bunches from all angles, and that's his style, and you can't take it away from him, because you know what, it was very effective for him at the lighter weight classes, at the earlier years, and at the certainly the when the fire and the passion and the reflexes and the skill and some of the power was there. These things have diminished. I think they did not carry up with the weight classes, and I think that he's got to really assess and say, hey, I'm either going to just enjoy life and go do other things and retire, or I will come back for this one rematch with Jeff Horn, and if I come up short again, that's it. If I do not, I'll retire with my belt and gaining a win. That's it. That's all he has.
Well,
fighting. In my mind.
In my opinion, Manny Pacquiao, he's not the same fighter. Hasn't been the same fighter. Wasn't the same fighter for the last several years, 3 or 4 years. And his last knockout came, I believe, against Cotto, and that was in 2009. So. Right. It's been a long time. His speed is gone. You could even say some of his accuracy is gone. And quite honestly, I think some of his desire is gone too. But
I think that's true.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, not only did Manny Pacquiao's performance, not live up to what we expected, and Jeff Horn's, by all accounts, exceeded what we expected. I mean, I don't think there was any. Definitely did. But what added to the negativity around this fight was Teddy Atlas. And we're going to take a short break right now. When I come back, I'm going to tell you some of the comments that he made and he's continuing to make, and just putting more of a blemish on this fight and on Manny Pacquiao. I'll be back in 2.
Billy C will be right back.
Currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace?
Call Back Brace America at 1-800-290-8300.
Endless pools are an incredible alternative to traditional pools, making it easy and inexpensive to swim at home. Exercise year-round against a smooth current set to your desired pace and temperature. With our new underwater treadmill, you can walk or run without stressing your joints. Endless pools are simple to install and even simpler to maintain. The water stays crystal clear with almost no chlorine. Call for your free idea kit and experience the freedom of swimming at home.
Snacking has never been this exciting. At Graze.com, we combine wholesome ingredients with the flavors we all love to create over 100 exciting snacks, like these. We'd love to send you a Graze sampler box for free. Just go to Graze.com, enter the code ENJOY36, and we'll mail your free box to your home or office. Join thousands of Grazers already in love with our exciting snacks. So come to Graze.com for your first box free.
If you or a loved one have had hernia repair surgery with mesh reinforcement and suffered infection, chronic pain, mesh migration, mesh failure, organ damage, or needed additional surgery, call the Rely On Group right now. You may be eligible to receive a cash award and compensation for your medical expenses. Your voice deserves to be heard. Call the Rely On Group to be connected with a personal injury attorney for a free consultation. Call 800-715-4869. That's 800-715-4869.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts! Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning. Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C Show. Glad you could be with us, and don't forget about checking us out on YouTube. Our YouTube version of the show is the TV version. That's right. We want to give a shout out to all of our TV viewers, and we'd love to hear from you when you drop us an email. Tell us where you're watching or listening, whether it's online or on a television network and all that happy stuff. Want to check out the YouTube version? If you're watching online, just go to youtube.com/talkin, TALKIN boxing, BOXING. I'm here with my man Sal Santa Cola. And Sal, I've been talking about, obviously today, my main thing, and we'll have Larry Hazzard come on a little bit later, give us his thoughts on the fight itself. But Manny Pacquiao has nothing left to prove. He's not the same fighter. It's time to hang him up. I mean, that's my opinion about Manny, and I'm a fan of Manny. But I know you. Jeff Horn. I mean, Jeff Horn deserves all the credit in the world for showing the heart, determination, sticking to his game plan, and winning the fight on at least the judges' scorecards. But during the broadcast on ESPN, Teddy Atlas was there, and as is the case with Teddy Atlas, he was, screaming and yelling, corrupt, corrupt, corrupt. I mean, even with the Conlon fight, he's saying, this guy's got to step it up. I mean, it's the guy's third pro fight, and he wants him to fight, Muhammad Ali already. His fighters don't have to do that, but But he when he was talking with Jeff Horn, Teddy Atlas was very vocal during the broadcast. He says they gave a trophy, a win, a huge win to Jeff Horn. They gave it to him, the local kid, for just trying hard. You're not supposed to get it for trying hard. You're supposed to get the trophy, meaning the belt, for winning. When he talked to Jeff Horn, he said to Jeff Horn, "Congratulations, it was a great effort, but I thought you lost." He says, he says, everyone has a right to their opinion. I thought you lost. Now, as far as, he says, the timing of opinions can be off sometimes, but it is what it is. And as far as Jeff Horn, he says, I thought that his timing was off. He was trying to ruin the moment for me. It would have been good for him to give his thoughts another time. He says, people are entitled to their own opinions, but Teddy shouldn't have said it at that moment. I agree with Jeff Horn, Sal. Teddy Atlas, he said it all to the listener base, and he could be very honest in saying to Jeff Horn, I thought you lost. But was it appropriate to say it then? I mean, it's not. It's the same thing that happened to Timothy Bradley. When everybody gave Timothy Bradley the win over Manny Pacquiao, the masses thought that Pacquiao won the fight, and everyone, went after Timothy Bradley. He didn't score the cards. Jeff Horn didn't score the cards. When does a guy like Teddy Atlas just got to shut the F up?
Well, and I think you were 100% right again, Bill. It was very inappropriate, I believe, for him to say that immediately as his first sentence coming out of his mouth, that he thought he lost that fight. I think there could have been a time and a place after the fight, but this was a congratulatory kind of interview and post-fight, and sure, he could have said, hey, it was a good fought fight, you rose to the occasion. And to Jeff Horn's credit, because I saw that, and I couldn't believe that Teddy Atlas said, I think you lost the fight. Jeff Horn said, he says, well, I respect you, Teddy, and you're due to your opinion, and he said, I respect you very much, but you're wrong. I'm telling you, Jeff Horn was a gentleman. He was shot. He was probably stunned by that punch more than whatever hit punch caught him from Manny Pacquiao.
Well, it was a classless statement, Sal.
It was a classless statement. You're absolutely right, and I think Teddy should maybe apologize to that for that statement and refrain himself in the future for doing things like that.
We were all critical
right after the fight.
We were all critical of Stephen A. Smith too, because the thing about Stephen A. Smith is, let's face it, whether you like him or not, the guy doesn't know crap about boxing. Like I said the other day, he doesn't know a left hook from a fish hook. He doesn't know who Randall Bailey was. He doesn't know, a lot of us didn't know too much about Jeff Horn, but Ali Fanica and Randall Bailey, two names on Jeff Horn's resume, are known by, even marginal boxing fans. They know who those guys are, especially Randall Bailey, a world champion, a former world champion not too long ago. And, Stephen A. Smith dismisses them, saying that nobody's ever heard of them, those two, in addition to Jeff Horn. Then he was kind of mirroring everything that Teddy said when they went back to the studio. So Stephen Stephen A. Smith ruined the broadcast to that sense. Now, listen, Teddy Atlas is Teddy Atlas. He's constantly done the same stuff. Everything's a robbery when they don't agree with him. Everything is wrong when you don't agree with him. And personally, and I'm not suggesting that Teddy Atlas doesn't know the sport, because he definitely does. But I think ESPN needs to kick him to the curb. Here he is. ESPN seems to be making a pretty aggressive move in the sport of boxing, and they're taking Teddy along with them. Teddy, I've heard him when they had open scoring on TV. I heard him saying, the fans are watching, they're not agreeing with me, they don't know what they're watching. It's like, come on, Teddy. It's a joke, don't you think?
I do agree with you, Bill. I think he's got he should put a little governor on his delivery of some of the words that leave his mouth, and it's just not professional broadcasting. You do what you can do, and I welcome his opinion, and I do like to hear it, but there's a time and a place.
The fact is simple. Manny Pacquiao did not live up to expectations, even for a fighter that's starting to age. Whether you felt he won or whether you felt he lost, the bottom line is it was a close fight. I think the end result is simple. Manny Pacquiao needs to hang him up. It's over. It's not the same Manny Pacquiao. I said it last week. Nobody has beaten Father Time. The Father Time fighter is undefeated, and he will always be undefeated, and he surpassed 50-0 many, many years ago, and nobody will ever beat him. It's the smart fighters that know when to say when. I was never a big Lennox Lewis fan, but guess what? He retired when he knew he was done. He never looked back. He retired as a champion, and no one will ever take that away. The biggest asset you can take with you in the sport of boxing, or any sport for that matter, is to retire at the top. And that means retire with a title. Peyton Manning did it with the Broncos. He retired, although he was contemplating coming back. He knew that he wasn't the same quarterback, and he retired with a Super Bowl win. How much better can you go out of a sport than at the top of your game? Manny Pacquiao could have went out by retiring after the win over Jesse Vargas when he won the WBO title. Now, like you suggest, Sal, it's like he's kind of forced into fighting Jeff Horn again to beat him, to win his title back, and then retire, because if he continues after that, we're going to see the same crap.
Absolutely. And Bill, I'll take a bet right now, Bill. I don't believe he's going to beat Jeff Horn in a rematch. I think Jeff Horn will come back even stronger and more assertive and a little bit more deliberate. And I don't think there's much more that Manny could do to offset those barrages of the barrage of punches and his aggressive stalking. I think that Manny is going to possibly make that comeback, but I don't think we should expect different results at the end of the day.
Well, the only thing that we can say and assume, and you know what they say about assuming, but if Manny Pacquiao did not train as hard as he claimed he did, and as hard as Freddie Roach claimed he did, and he trained like most people were saying that he did, and like how he showed in press conferences, just taking Jeff Horn so lightly, didn't do the work, didn't put in the work. If now on Sunday morning he wakes up and realizes he lost a fight, and as a result, maybe he got out of this fight what he put into it, or didn't get out of this fight because he didn't put into it, is my point. And maybe he says, well, if I do train, even at 38 years old, I should be able to beat a Jeff Horn. And that could be the only way that he comes out with a W. But you're right. Once a fighter reaches a certain age, they're not getting any better. He does know the tricks. He does know he's got the experience. His legs have failed him. His hand speed was clearly not the same. A Manny Pacquiao of a few years ago would have hit Jeff Horn 3, 4, 5 times and been out of harm's way before Jeff Horn even landed one punch. And Manny was getting hit. Punch stats are, remember, they're subjective too. But Sal, just real quick to get it out of the way. I'm not going to get into the emails. We got a bunch of emails that we are going to read a little bit later. But Major League Baseball yesterday for the 4th of July, the Nationals beat the Mets 11-4. The Blue Jays over the Yankees 4-1. Tigers over the Giants 5-3. The Twins beat the Angels 5-4. Marlins over the Cardinals 5-2. The Rays over the Cubs 6-5. The Pirates shut out Philadelphia Phillies 3-0. The A's over the White Sox 7-6. The Brewers over the Orioles 6-2. Royals over the Mariners 7-3. Padres beat the Indians 1-0. And by the way, the Padres were a plus 200 underdog. So if you bet the Padres, and you bet $100, you won 200 for that win. So congratulations on that. Astros continue to dominate Major League Baseball. 16-4 win over the Braves. Red Sox beat the Rangers 11-4. The Reds over the Rockies 8-1. And my second favorite team, so I'm going to start calling them my Dodgers, beat the Diamondbacks 4-3. Can't handle the Mets anymore, Sal. But anyway, Manny Pacquiao done as far as I'm concerned, and I don't. In my opinion, I think that he doesn't even need to prove that he still got it. I think it's time to just hang him up, But that it is what it is. But it's unfortunate.
It is what it is.
It's unfortunate that the excuses are really piling up, and now the Philippines, organizations going after the WBA. It's
disgusting. It reminds me of the hanging Chad vote. Let's talk about it.
Well, the worst thing is that it continues on. But listen, I got to take a break, Sal. Hold that thought because we're going to come back and continue that. We are going to get Larry Hazzard on. We got the blast from the past, and we'll come back to you. So fill up all that coffee that you like to drink, and we'll be seeing you in a little bit, my man.
All right, buddy. You take care. We'll talk in a little while.
That's
Bye-bye.
Sal Santa Cola, and he will be back in a bit. We got some other stuff going on. I'm going to take a break. Larry Hazzard, it's up next.
Billy C will be right back.
Currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace?
Call Back Brace America at 1-800-290-8300.
This message is for all Americans that owe $10,000 or more in back taxes to the IRS. Look, I know you want to keep ignoring those letters, but the problem isn't going away. It's really stressful, and you don't know where to turn.
The good news is you have rights, and we can help resolve your IRS problems.
If you owe more than $10,000 in back taxes, our qualified CPAs, tax negotiators, and support staff know the law and know how to get your situation under control legally and permanently.
Call the number on your screen now and we will contact the IRS on your behalf, help you end wage garnishments, stop collection calls, remove tax liens, get rid of IRS and state tax penalties, and reduce the amount you owe if you qualify. You wouldn't go to fix your car without going to a mechanic, so why face the IRS without an experienced company that can help you?
Let us take the stress of back taxes and the IRS off your shoulders so you can spend time on the important things in your life, like your family or your business. If you owe more than $10,000 in back taxes, call now and find out how we can help you.
Have you heard? Proactive Plus is faster and better than ever. Stay tuned for a 1,000,000 bottle giveaway, and you'll also receive free shipping. Do you have troubled skin? Acne? Well, we have great news. With Proactive Plus, your acne can heal, and you can help prevent new breakouts from happening. Don't miss this limited time offer. Give us a call at 800-567-0214 because we're going to let 1,000,000 people try Proactive Plus risk-free and get 2 free gifts and also receive free shipping when you call right now. You heard it. This offer won't last long. So call Proactive Plus now and you'll receive a 60-day risk-free trial of Proactive Plus, 2 free extras, and free shipping. Call 800-567-0214. This is our exclusive radio offer, never on TV. Get your risk-free 60-day trial of Proactive Plus with free shipping. That's right, free shipping. Don't wait. Call 800-567-0214. That's 800-567-0214.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts. Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning.
Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C. Show. Glad you could be with us. And we're talking about Manny Pacquiao. Should he hang him up? I mean, he's not the same fighter. And joining us right now, I believe, is my man Larry Hazzard. What's up, Larry?
Hey, what's up, Billy?
I didn't know if we had you. It was showing that we didn't have you on there, but I'm glad you're with us. I hope you had a happy 4th of July and didn't blow your hands off or anything with fireworks or anything like that. But Manny Pacquiao, Jeff Horn. First and foremost, let me ask you this, Larry. What did you think of the fight? I mean, what was your assessment of the fight itself, the scoring, the refereeing? I mean, give me the whole rundown on what you thought.
Well, happy 4th of July to you also. But, I thought that it was an entertaining fight. Certainly, Manny Pacquiao is not the same fighter that he once was. I thought that the scoring was really off. I thought Pacquiao won the fight, not by a whole lot, but I think he did win the fight. But I think that the judges scored it the other way because Horn was very aggressive. You know, he obviously was in very good condition to keep up that pace. And they more or less gave him, a lot of times what happens in a situation like this, they go into the fight not expecting a guy to do as well as he did. And so I'm kind of like Teddy Atlas on that one point. That I think they kind of scored it for him because he did so well or because he tried so hard. And, I just thought that the scoring was really, really for it to be unanimous, too. Especially the one score, I think it was the girl, the young lady. She had a very wide margin, which I don't understand, how she got that. I'm curious as to how she ended up with a score like that. But I thought the fight was entertaining. You'll probably see a rematch. I'm sure there are enough people hungry for a rematch that Bob Arum, if you notice, he didn't complain. He's got both fighters. Even before the fight, he was pumping Horn, which I found kind of odd. But now, being that he's not complaining that much about the decision, he's probably got a rematch in mind. I don't know why people want to see it again, because I think that at this point, we've seen enough of Pacquiao. He's not the same fighter that he was before. Not that he has to be. Fighters lose a little bit in every fight. But, I mean, he's been around a long time, and he's clearly, in my opinion, not at the level where he could be as competitive as he has been against the top-notch fighters. So that's pretty much it from the way I saw it.
Well, let me say this. I agree with you 100%. The fight was extremely entertaining, and that's what we usually get with Manny Pacquiao, and I give the guy credit. And I also agree, even though I was very anti the way Teddy Atlas acted, not only during the broadcast but post-fight, But I do agree with you and Teddy that I feel that they were scoring rounds for Jeff Horn because he was making such an effort and showing and proving all of us wrong. And I do believe on some of those close rounds he got the nod. But the close rounds is the key, Larry, because I scored the fight 115-113 in favor of Manny Pacquiao. 115-113 is not a robbery. That's a close fight. And some of those rounds could have been, because the way the scoring system is and because of the positioning of a judge, could have gone the other way. Therefore, 115-113, the two scorecards were okay. I mean, you can't cry like Teddy Atlas did and say it was a robbery when you're talking about a difference of 1 round, okay? A decision of 1 round difference. I also agree with you that the third judge that scored at 117-111 was way out there. Now, when they said all 3 judges scored it for the winner, I was expecting Manny Pacquiao's name to be announced. When they said Jeff Horn, I was shocked. And, it brings us back to what you and I talk about time and time again, about the judges and the order in which they're scoring fights. I throw the punch stats out because it's subjective, although I did discuss them as a conversation piece. And they're all subjective. None of us, I wasn't ringside. I didn't see if punches landed. But during the fight and listening to Teddy saying how it's, Pacquiao looks great. Oh, he's landing. It's just classic Pacquiao. And I'm saying to myself, are they watching the same fight I'm watching? Because I'm seeing Pacquiao get tagged. I'm seeing Pacquiao look extremely slow. I'm seeing Pacquiao doing things that he shouldn't be doing. And, oh, by the way, I didn't see any instruction from Freddie Roach. I mean, people are saying, Manny's got to get a new trainer. Manny's got to hang him up. I think it's over for Manny. He's done a lot for the sport. We loved him. He's exciting. It's time to go, right? I mean, what else can we say?
You stole my next point. Again, I couldn't wait for you to finish. The great Freddie Roach, okay? I didn't hear anything from him, okay? And that may be because, he obviously thought that Pacquiao was that much into the fight. This Stephen A. Smith guy, don't tell me they're bringing in another one. I mean, this guy I cannot take. I couldn't take him even before he came to boxing because, he's just a loud mouth. He's just.
Well, how can you?
And I think he thinks that he's the second coming of Howard Cosell, even though Howard Cosell, at least, was very, very knowledgeable in my opinion, of boxing and in general. That's just the way Howard Cosell was. But this guy, and I've seen him in combination with that other loudmouth guy of Kellerman from HBO. I've seen them doing other sports, which I turn right away from them. But I see that they are a combination in other broadcasts outside of boxing. I don't know if you've ever seen them. But, hey, listen, people can complain all they want about Teddy Atlas, okay, because Teddy is Teddy, and I give him a pass mainly because he is a part of the fraternity. He's been around, and he does have a boxing background. But this guy, I'm saying they're adding this Stephen A. Smith, and they kept going back and forth to him. For what? Okay, he doesn't know anything about boxing. The only thing that he knows is Floyd Money Mayweather, and he runs in his big mouth like he's putting on a show. And I just can't take it, man. And if they keep this up, I don't know if I'm going to be able to watch these telecasts when they have these guys on. I'm sorry.
Well, listen, we're even because you took the words right out of my mouth about Stephen A. He doesn't know anything about boxing. It's a joke, and it's sad that ESPN is even putting him in the studio. There's no reason to go back to the studio. They bring nothing to it. He was repeating what Teddy Atlas was saying, and it ruined the broadcast. And you're 100% correct. The only thing he knows about boxing is Floyd Mayweather, and he's buddies with Floyd, etc., etc. Doesn't follow the sport, at least. And when you hear a guy like him that doesn't even do any research about the fights or fighters that he's watching. I mean, Al Bernstein, who you can never get to say anything negative about anybody, was all over Stephen A. Smith, saying that he doesn't know who Randall Bailey is. He doesn't know who Ali Fanica is, saying he's never heard of these guys. You can't do that. ESPN has got a good thing going here, Larry, with the free broadcast, these big fights. They gotta tweak it, and I know Teddy Atlas knows a lot about boxing. There's no question, but he's not helping the broadcast either by yelling and screaming and Timothy Bradley. I love him. I think he's a pound for pound fighter, but he's saying this fighter. We are in Argentina, and they're like, hey Timothy, we're in Australia, not Argentina. So I mean, these guys got to be educated a little bit before they go on air, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Teddy has a personality that he overshadows the other guys, and he doesn't give them, the boxing even. See, I'm the type of guy like this. I give even a fighter, okay, and it's a personal thing, I guess. I give them a little bit of a pass on a lot of things on there because they are the real warriors. Those are the guys who've been in there. So I think that the networks should spend some time polishing them up. Even Bernard Hopkins, I watched him doing a telecast with Teddy. And Teddy has a tendency of imposing his thoughts over everybody else. And everybody else just backs down. I remember one guy, and I used to watch these guys come and go on HBO, and I thought it was for this reason, because they were a little bit too aggressive for Merchant. Larry Merchant was another guy who always sort of but he was very articulate. He had a different style than Teddy, but he was also sort of like a guy that it's my thoughts or no thoughts in the end. And George Foreman used to really back him down a lot, and I used to love watching it, but George didn't last too long on HBO. Right. Manny Stewart, okay, he was a very low-key type of guy, but he had his own way of still pressing his point. Roy Jones, of course. See, Roy is a different type of personality who has a way of pushing this guy, Kellerman, to the back and telling him in a nice way, hey, I've been in there, so you can shut your mouth because my thought is going to be the last thought. So this is what they do. And like I said, and I agree with you here that ESPN has a great thing going now, and I think that they should take a little more time pushing up the Timothy Bradleys and some of these other guys that they intend to bring on, who are guys who have actually been in the war, and I think they would do a great service to the boxing fans and to those guys that they bring on. That's what I like to see.
Well, you're hitting on the head with Atlas. Teddy he's right, and everybody else is wrong. If you don't agree with him, you're wrong. And although even take you and I for example, we don't always we happen to agree on a lot of things, but we don't always agree. And as long as if in my case, if you give me a reason why you disagree and present a case to me in an intelligent way, I'm open to it. I'm open to say, you know what? You're right, Larry. I was wrong. I don't have a problem with that. There's nothing wrong with saying, you know what? Maybe I wasn't looking at it right. Teddy Atlas doesn't even entertain that. Every fight that he watches, if the scorecards aren't like his, and I think they should just give him a coloring book and crayons because he doesn't know how to score fights. He may know boxing, but he doesn't know how to score fights. I decided to give it a 10-8 round. Because I gave it a 10-7 round. It's like, what? It's Teddy. Why are you changing the scoring system? Then you blame everybody else for not having the same scorecard as you. But hey, listen. Did you happen to see the Povetkin fight from Russia?
No, what network was that on?
Well, it was on 11 Sports. But Larry, you gotta go back and watch the first round of this fight. Now you know Alexander Povetkin, right? I mean, he's been this is a guy that has tested positive.
Talking about Teddy, that's Teddy's old fighter. That's Teddy.
Right. That's a whole nother story. He ruined this kid's career. The guy was like a champion, and all of a sudden he had to redo everything. And when he signed him, he was fighting all these cupcakes, and now he's broadcasting for that Irish kid in his third pro fight, saying, "Oh, they got to step up the competition." I'm like, it's his third fight. I mean, come on, what are you talking about? Your guys get to fight slugs, and everybody else has to fight, Evander Holyfield in their third fight. I mean, come on. But anyway, Alexander Povetkin, he's the guy that's tested positive for performance-enhancing drugs. He was supposed to fight Wilder a couple of times and all this stuff, right? They had this fight, Larry. The first round, this is a classic. I don't even think you have witnessed this in your career, okay? This is what took place. In the fight, the first round, about a minute and a half goes by, and they're in an exchange, and Povetkin lands a punch on Rudenko and hits him, not a rabbit punch. It wasn't behind the head. It was kind of on the top of the neck area, like the top of the spine, all right? And Rudenko complains to the referee. Then all of a sudden, actually, before he complained, as he backed away, he did how if you crack your neck, you kind of crick your neck a little bit to the side. He cracks his neck, and his neck sticks. It's like he cracked his neck, and it kind of stuck, and he's tilted to the left, and he's pointing behind his neck to the referee, saying that the reason it's cracked and stuck to the left is the fact that he was hit with an illegal punch. The referee stops the action, Larry. They start doing physical therapy on this guy. Now, this fight was in Russia. They got the corner. They got doctors. They got everything. They're massaging him. They're giving him water. They send Povetkin to the neutral corner. I'm telling you, and I am not exaggerating, this had to be for real. You know how you say, oh, it took 10 minutes, this and that, and then you really, it was 2 minutes. This had to be 4 minutes that they're working on this guy. They're instructing him. He's got his corner. He's got the medical staff. They're massaging him. And finally, they're saying, well, if you can't continue, because he never ruled it an illegal punch, and his neck is stuck to the side, like they can't snap it back, so it's straight. They finally continue the fight. They go, okay, time in, right? After all of this, right? And then the guy finishes the fight. He goes 12. This was the first round. He goes 12 rounds like that. I have never witnessed anything like that in my life. Now, granted, it took place in Russia, but what the heck? I mean, how can... Larry, please tell me, from a commission point of view, how much time and how deep of a degree do you give a fighter in a situation like this? I mean, that's a TKO as far as I'm concerned.
Well, if he didn't rule it an illegal punch, and the guy couldn't continue right then and there, he wasn't even entitled to a timeout if he didn't rule it an illegal punch. And if he couldn't continue, then the fight's over. Right. He loses by a technical knockout. Okay?
Exactly.
Now, if the referee ruled it an illegal punch, and he seemed to have some difficulty, then of course he could have given him the customary, up to 5 minutes if he needed it, but no assistance from nobody. You're talking about their massaging his neck and giving him all kinds of, assistance. It's totally out of whack. So you're 100% right. if it was not ruled illegal, then he should have lost the fight by technical knockout. I'm surprised Povetkin's, management and corner didn't complain about it.
Well, the Rudenko, his corner, they were looking. I think I don't speak Russian, so this was in Russia, but I think they were trying to get a DQ, for an illegal punch, which it wasn't. I mean, I got to see the replay 100 times. It wasn't illegal. It was more, and it was the first one. I mean, you at least get a warning, even if it was. If you look at it and say, well, it was a little behind the head. It was below the head. It landed on the neck area, and. But that's exactly what I thought, that, okay, if you're going to say he got an injury similar to an unintentional low blow, you got up to 5 minutes to recover, try and straighten out your neck on your own. But this guy was getting physical therapy in the corner. I mean, I've never witnessed anything like it in my life, and then the sad part is Povetkin can't even take him out of there. He goes 12 rounds, so of a one-sided beatdown, so I've lost all respect for him and the Russian. And the other thing that was strange, everything was red. The ring mat was red. All the corners were red. And the way you could tell the corner was at the top of the, turnbuckle padding. They had the color blue on one side and red on the other. So, as a fighter, after every round, they were all looking around. Where's my corner? You couldn't see it was absurd. You gotta punch it up on YouTube. Povetkin against Rudenko, first round. Watch it, and then let me know what you think, because this is a classic. You're gonna record it and save it in your library. It's a classic, my man.
Well, I'm gonna go right there and take a look, but. Everything you said it was in Russia, so maybe that's why everything was red. I don't know.
yeah, you could be right. You could be right there. You could be right there, my man. But listen, I appreciate the time as usual, and we'll look forward to you next week. I apologize, I haven't reached out to you via email about our event that we're planning that I hope you can attend. But look for an email from me soon, okay? As soon as I catch up, I'll get that out there, and hopefully you'll have some time to do that. But listen, enjoy the rest of the week. Definitely watch that and drop me an email. Let me know what you think. You'll definitely get, if you're having a bad day and you're looking for a laugh, watch that first round, because the rest of the fight, don't worry, it's not worth it. But that first round and the shenanigans that went on are classic, brother.
Okay, Billy. All right, buddy.
Larry, you have a good one, brother.
You too.
All right.
Too, man.
Take care. That's my man, Larry Hazzard. Boxing Hall of Famer and New Jersey Athletic Commissioner. Hey, listen, if you guys haven't seen that, I know we talked about it earlier, and I hope Larry goes back and watches it, because he is going to laugh his butt off. It's funny, but it's not funny, because that kind of stuff just can't happen in the sport of boxing where they do that. Now, I understand that they were probably trying to give the fans, because if you watch this, and it was in Russia, this was being made as this big extravaganza. Even though, I love live boxing. I love watching live boxing, not only live myself, but watching, film of fights from Europe and stuff, because the fans are so into it. The Russian fans, none of them stand up. I don't know if they're not allowed to stand up or anything. They cheer when they're supposed to. It's like everybody's on cue. They're all part of the broadcast. And I honestly believe that that's what the main part of the reason they wanted this fight to continue. They wanted to make sure that the fans got more than one round. That's my thought. But if you haven't watched it, punch it up. Rudenko against Alexander Povetkin happened this past weekend. And what a comical situation that was, in my opinion. They practically were, they were giving him water. I think they gave him a little oxygen. I think they let him go use the men's room, and then he came back and they said, time in, now you can fight. It was comical, to say the least. But anyway, we are going to take a short break here, and we are going to come back with my man Alex Perpali with the blast from the past. But let me get one email out of the way real quick. This one's from my man Jesse. He says, hey, Billy C., I didn't score the fight, but just watching I thought Manny won at least 7 rounds. I feared for Horn's life in the 9th and wanted the referee to stop the fight. The accumulation of punches by Manny from round 2 to 9 showed in that 9th round. Manny wasn't really hitting Horn with his killer combos, especially after the 9th, but Horn really got torched with clean shots throughout the fight. I didn't see Horn connect clean on Manny other than elbows and headbutts. I think Manny took it easy on Horn, especially after the 9th. I don't want Manny to retire yet, but after a rematch in Manny's homeland, let's see what happens. He says, I thought Easter won the fight and should fight Linares, Flanagan, or Vertigo winner, or maybe Mikey or Fortuna. He said, I didn't see the Julian Williams fight, but he should take on higher level opposition like Liam Smith, Jack Colque, Tony Harrison, or Justin De La Roche. My thoughts on that and Easter is all of the Al Heyman fighters, unless they're forced to, have really gotten a pass. As far as the Horn fight with Manny, I've been very vocal about it. Yes, I give an A for effort for Jeff Horn and his performance and his heart and his determination and conditioning. You can't knock the guy for that. I felt Manny Pacquiao squeaked out the fight, but I don't care to see Manny again. Manny's career, as far as I'm concerned, is over. He's not the same Manny. There's no sense in him going from the top, arguably the best pound-for-pound fighter of his generation, to a gatekeeper. It's not right. He deserves better than that. It's time for Manny to look in the mirror, say it's over, hang him up, say goodbye to Freddie, say goodbye to Bob Arum, and continue with his political career. I'm going to take a short break. When we come back, Alex Papali will join us for the Blast from the Past. This week, James Braddock, the Cinderella Man. We'll be back in 2.
Billy C will be right back. Part of the Billy C Boxing Network.
Endless pools are an incredible alternative to traditional pools, making it easy and inexpensive to swim at home. Exercise year-round against a smooth current set to your desired pace and temperature. With our new underwater treadmill, you can walk or run without stressing your joints. Endless pools are simple to install and even simpler to maintain. The water stays crystal clear with almost no chlorine. Call for your free idea kit and experience the freedom of swimming at home.
Are you currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace?
Call Back Brace America at 1-800-290-8300.
Snacking has never been this exciting. At Graze.com, we combine wholesome ingredients with the flavors we all love to create over 100 exciting snacks. Like these. We'd love to send you a Graze sampler box for free. Just go to Graze.com, enter the code ENJOY36, and we'll mail your free box to your home or office. Join thousands of Grazers already in love with our exciting snacks. So come to Graze.com for your first box free.
Endless pools are an incredible alternative to traditional pools, making it easy and inexpensive to swim at home. Exercise year-round against a smooth current set to your desired pace and temperature. With our new underwater treadmill, you can walk or run without stressing your joints. Endless pools are simple to install and even simpler to maintain. The water stays crystal clear with almost no chlorine. Call for your free idea kit and experience the freedom of swimming at home.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts! Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning.
Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're listening, hopefully in your right and left ear, to the Billy C Show. Glad you guys could be with us today. It's just a little Shout out to everyone in our chat room up on BillyCBoxing.com. Yeah, it can be funny at times. And if you want to see what I'm talking about, go visit the chat room up on BillyCBoxing.com. But joining us right now to give us the blast from the past this week, which is being sponsored by KOFantasyBoxing.com and the Title Bout Championship computer game. You can check out both up on our website, BillyCBoxing.com, is my man who's going to tell us all about the Cinderella Man, Alex Perpali. What's up, Alex?
Good morning, Billy C.
Oh, wait a minute. I was expecting Alex Perpali, not a clean-shaven guy. Who is this guy?
Yeah, shaved.
Jeez.
They were playing with facial hair the last couple of weeks.
Jeez, you don't look the same. I don't think I've seen you without some kind of facial hair, have I?
Yeah, I don't. I think it's been a very, very long time. I think in 2009 I shaved for a little while after the movie. But I think pretty much steady from like 92 or something, 93. I've had a goatee at least.
It's funny. I've had a mustache since 4th grade, and there's people, and I'm not kidding. I'm not even exaggerating. Since 4th grade, right? I mean, my wife never saw me without a mustache. And people say, "Oh, why don't you shave it?" I said, "I'm scared. I'm scared to shave it." My nose might look like Jimmy Durante after that. All of a sudden, I'm like, it's big enough as it is. I don't need to have it any bigger. But anyway, and in case you guys want to drop me an email, I'll just keep my email address hidden. I won't mention that, right, Alex? But
and you crack me up with that. You only tell it in the writing.
Yeah. Anyway, people got to go in the chat room. We have fun. I don't mean it personally.
Chat room's fun.
Yeah, I don't mean to. I'm just trying to be whatever. But James Braddock, the Cinderella Man. Talk about. We definitely don't have enough time to talk about everything about this guy, right?
Yeah, this guy, people know a lot about his career because of the movie. He of course, is, the movie that Ron Howard directed that starred Russell Crowe and Renee Zellweger. He did have one of the best comebacks and upset victories in boxing history. So, he's a guy that you could talk a lot about. And the other thing that's pretty amazing about him, just as an American story, is he is somebody who pulled himself up by his bootstraps and sort of gave back to the society that helped him. And that's, we admire those kind of stories. He's about what's best in all of us.
The thing that's really fantastic about James Braddock is, here's a guy that comes from poverty, grows up in a tough neighborhood, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think he sold newspapers, but you could fill us in on that. Even during his boxing career, he fell, down in the dumps again, and continue to fight through it. And normally when you hear the rags to riches and then back to rags story so frequently in this sport, you hear them go from rags to riches, and then most of them lose their money after they're done boxing. Well, here's a case with James Braddock where he goes from rags to not so much riches and then goes back to rags before he made some money. It really wasn't until the Lewis fight where he got that great deal where, he finally was comfortable. But why don't we start at the beginning? Where and when was he born?
Right. A great deal for him, but kind of a screw job, if you ask me, for poor Joe Louis. The great Jimmy Braddock, or James J. Braddock, he was born in Hell's Kitchen, New York. As usual, with these old guys, you get some confusion. Well, with I guess depending on who you ask, we got this issue with presidents too. His birthday is, according to one obituary, it said December 6, 1905, but I saw elsewhere it says June 7th, 1905. So whatever.
I think that might have been a reverse because it's either June 6th or July 6th. Or, you know what I mean? Because it could be, like when you reverse it, because that is constant. They do switch back and forth, either June 7th or July 6th.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. This obituary says December 6th.
Oh, December 6th.
Yeah, so I don't know.
I have June 7th.
Cyber Boxing Zone says June 7th.
Yeah, I have June 7th on all mine.
Yeah. Weird. Yeah, maybe this was a mistake. You know, it was probably written. You know, it's written the day after he died, of course. Okay, so his family moved to a little town named West New York. I didn't know there was a town like that. It's actually in New Jersey, West New York, New Jersey, and that's where he started boxing in that area. He debuted in West Hoboken, I guess, and he was somebody who a lot of these guys, you know, some of these greats that we talk about, like the Jack Dillon or Young Stribling, they could punch higher than their weight. He started out at middleweight. There's a great documentary on the interwebs on YouTube that I'll link to in the little. I'll do a post of him on BillyCBoxing.com, and you got some great people in it. You got referee Joe Lipton and Mike DeLisa. His comments are really good in this video, and they talk about you know, how he won Golden Gloves titles, even the heavyweight Golden Glove title in 1925 and 1926, when he was only 162 or 163, right along there. He was able to punch bigger than he was, and you know, take out these bigger guys and larger men. And back then, of course, you didn't have monsters like we do today, like an Anthony Joshua or Vlad Klitschko. Heavyweights were, you know, 185 pounds. He was kind of a journeyman, you know. He won, lost. He was hard to knock out. He's definitely a good puncher. He had a great right hand, but unfortunately it broke a lot. He had success as a light heavyweight, and eventually fought Tommy Loughran in 1929, who, you know, of course, was one of the greatest light heavyweights of all time. And he dropped a 15-round decision to him. Tough fight. I think most of it is on YouTube. But yeah, you know, there he was in the world championship picture.
Well, you know, he, as a kid, he got into a lot of fights, and he was in trouble. And, you know, somebody said to him at some point, you know, hey, why don't you focus on becoming a professional fighter, and told him he could actually get paid for it. And his skill set was better than people give him credit for. You know, he was, you know, early in his career, yes, he had a weak hand that would break a lot, his power punch, but he was fast. He had you know, uncharacteristically fast hands, and he could counterpunch, which made him an exciting fighter. But early in his career, when he showed some success, and you can actually look at his resume and see where he had those string of loss after loss after loss. And he contributes that, you know, later when he talked about his career, he contributes that to not having the money to train and eat properly, and of course pay trainers to help him. So I think it's not like it's a crock of crap, because when you look at the black and white, you know, history of his resume, it all fits. You know, during that time where he was struggling financially. I mean, as a kid, this was a guy that was, you know, worrying about starving to death, let alone, you know, getting too much. I mean, this is no normal rags to riches. This was poverty with a capital P, Alex.
Absolutely. And we're talking about the Depression, New York City, New Jersey area, and the family had nothing, and there was one great line that Mike DeLisa mentions in that documentary, where after he beats Corn Griffin, which is his big shot at you know, he fights on the undercard of Max Baer versus Primo Carnera, and I wonder if this is in the movie. I've never seen the movie, but it's perfect line. It should be in the movie. After he beats Corn Griffin, I guess he ran to the side of the ring where all the writers were, and he said, "Hey, I did that on hash. get me a couple steaks and you'll see what I can do. So you're right. I mean, he was talk about bare bones. The family had very little. He had married his high school sweetheart, Mae Fox, and they had 3 kids, 2 sons, Howard, Jay, and they had a daughter, Rosemarie. And you're right, they had very little. And eventually he did go on public assistance and signed up he was making $6.87 a week. That's what welfare was at the time. But this was, he was close to making this incredible comeback where he had this fight with Abe Feldman that I guess was horrible. They threw the 2 of them out of the ring. Before that, he was doing whatever odd jobs he could. He was working on the waterfront as a longshoreman. He got jobs as a bartender. He shoveled coal. He shoveled snow. Times were tough. And then he got this chance to fight Corn Griffin, and he won. He knocked the guy out. He fought him on 2 days' notice. Corn Griffin, like I said, it was on the undercard of Max Baer versus Primo Carnera, and his manager is who they had been close from when he was first started out his boxing career. His manager's name was Joe Gould, and he came to him on the docks and said, "Look, I got this shot. You want to fight Corn Griffin? Let's do this." 2 days' notice. He fights him, knocks him out in the 3rd round. And then, opportunities, as you say, good fights make fights, or something like that. I can't remember the exact saying, but fights make fights. Next fight he had is against John Henry Lewis, another great light heavyweight who now moved up to heavyweight. He beats him. And then he fights Art Lasky, beats him. And, Art Lasky was another guy that they thought was going to be this big heavyweight, and he just get a name on his record, beat Jimmy Braddock, and then fight Max Baer. Braddock had better ideas and defeated him. So he put this 3-fight win streak together that really inspired everyone, because here was this down on his luck guy. That's where it really is the Cinderella thing, except the fairy godmother here, this wasn't supernatural force, it was opportunity. And he absolutely took advantage of it, and that's a pretty incredible, pretty awesome thing, so he gets this fight with Max Baer, and Max Baer, of course, is a fearsome puncher. I think they kind of, from what I've heard, I've never seen the movie, as I said, but they kind of vilify Max Baer. They sort of make him into a killer because I guess one guy did die in the ring, and then one guy, I guess, was maimed permanently. But of course, he challenges Max Baer. He's a 5-1 underdog, and he defeats him.
Well, just to take a backtrack for a second, you're right, and that's when the career turned around. But when you go back, he was on the uprise through the late 20s and was a top fighter. And then when you look and include and he capped that by beating Pat Laszlo, which was a former world champion who had gained a lot of weight and was fighting as light heavyweight now. In 1928, when he beat Laszlo, that's when people really started looking at James Braddock. But unfortunately for him, and which eventually earned him that title shot you mentioned against Tommy Loughran, and he also fought Maxie Rosenblum. But that's when that era from late 28, or even if you go from 1929, all the way up until that next shot when you brought up the fight. Those 3 fights that he won in a row to get him back in the mix, that's when you see all those losses, when, he was struggling to eat and all that other stuff, So that's where you can see the change, so to speak, with this guy's career. And then, of course, like you said, the Corn Griffin, John Henry Lewis, and Art Lasky fights got him the shot at Max Baer for the world heavyweight title, in which he won a 15-round unanimous decision, which started to set up some funky stuff. He was supposed to fight Max Schmeling after that. And there's a lot of different controversy about why that fight didn't happen, Alex. And shed some light on that.
Yeah, I don't really have any definitive answer. I'm not sure anybody does. It seems like it was politics to some degree that influenced it. We, at the time, of course, Hitler had come to power. It was 1936. Schmeling was, a deserving contender. He had knocked out Joe Louis. So, the title shot, he deserved a title shot. Well, as had happened for much of his career, he was aligned, because of his nationality, was aligned with Nazi Germany. So even though personally there was no connection, other than, didn't mean he wasn't affiliated in any way with the Nazi Party. He was his own man. He just was German. In this country, of course, the idea that the heavyweight champion might become a German guy, and then be sort of Hitler might hijack it and keep it in Germany and not let anybody fight for it. So that idea that let's maybe not let this fight happen. There were issues with Braddock's hand in training, so that could have been a major factor. It ends up getting canceled, and he ends up fighting Joe Louis instead at Comiskey Park, that went, as we know, Joe Louis wins the title. However, like I was saying, like we were alluding to before, one of the reasons why he gets set up for life in terms of financial, talk about Cinderella, this is the glass slipper. Part of the deal in getting the fight with Joe Louis that Mike Jacobs, Louis's promoter, makes is that Jim Braddock will now get 10% of Louis's purses for the rest of his life, rest of his fighting life, which, I don't know, that's pretty rough, I think.
Well, I'll tell you,
it's great for Jim Braddock.
For Jim Braddock, but here's the thing. They want Joe Louis had been knocked out by Max Schmeling, and they wanted a rematch with that fight. But because of the tensions with the countries and what was going on in the world and stuff, it was hard to make. The injury, the hand injury, and they were starting negotiations between James Braddock and Max Schmeling. As a matter of fact, it was all but almost done to come and have that fight at Madison Square Garden. But then that injury that you mentioned to his hand, to James Braddock's hand, which many people believed was BS, that he really didn't hurt his hand. And then they started talking about the possible, hey, let's give Joe Louis a shot. And to sweeten the pot, they said, we'll give you 10% of his earnings for the rest of his ring career, Joe Louis's rest of his ring career, which, was a great business move by James Braddock. He ended up fighting Joe Louis, losing the title, which, ironically enough, set up the rematch with Max Schmeling, which Joe Louis obviously avenged and knocked out Schmeling in a great fight. But the thing I admire about Braddock was that was the end of his career. And one of the things I always admire, like I mentioned about Lennox Lewis earlier in the show, he fought Max Baer, won the title, fought Joe Louis, lost the title in 1937, fought one more time against Tommy Farr, won that fight, and then walked away from the sport of boxing and never came back. Well, what did he do after boxing? Because he died at a young age, but what did he do after his pro career was over?
I don't know much about his post-fight career, but at one point he did invest money in a taxi cab company that went under. Boxing career. However, one thing I did want to mention about that Lewis fight, was a really good fight. I mean, and as when you look at his record, he does really well against Hall of Famers. Lewis is one that he was 0-1 against, of course, and was stopped. It was the only time he was knocked out in his whole career. He had been down 2 other times, but Lewis was the one who put him on the deck, and that was a thing that he, after the 7th round, I guess he went back to his corner. It had been a really good, thrilling fight. He had actually put Joe Louis on the deck in the first round with an uppercut. Sneaky little uppercut, and Lewis is put, right on the seat of his pants. And in the 7th, Lewis is battering him by this point, and Braddock goes back to his corner, and Joe Gould wanted to stop it, but Braddock said, no, you're going to count me out for me to be finished. And he did. That was the first time that he was stopped, and only time he was stopped. And so, like I was saying with Hall of Famers, you got Joe Louis, he was 0-1. Max Baer, he was 1-0. John Henry Lewis, he was 1-1. He fought Maxie Rosenblum, who was 0-1 to him. And he fought Tommy Loughran, was 0-1 to him. Or I think he avenged that, did he? Maybe I'm wrong on that. No, he was 0-1 to him. So that's his record with Hall of Famers, and that's pretty damn good.
Yeah, and there's no doubt about that. But he did have, after his career, he did have, I didn't know about the taxi cab business, but I also believe that he was involved in a bar that he owned. And for all intent and purposes, the notes that I have is that he did fairly well in business after boxing. So I mean, unfortunately he died at 69 years old. But there is a scene, and in that movie that my favorite scene was had nothing to do with the fights or anything else, but. There was a scene when Braddock was demanding money from his manager and trainer, or his manager. And, his manager always was portrayed, and the actor that played his manager is one of my favorite actors. What's his name? Paul
Giamatti.
Paul Giamatti, right. And he's in there, and he's always dressed with a nice suit. He's always driving in a nice car, and he's always flashing money around, and you have this image that he's loaded, and that's what attracted James Braddock to him. And, Braddock wanted his money and went to his, and one of the things he said, is, don't ever come to my house, blah, 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 blah. And he's living in this big apartment in the city, and Braddock there was no way to prevent him. And he comes in, and he basically bullies his way through the security into the apartment, and just basically opens up the door, and he finds an empty apartment that his manager basically was living, acting like he had all this money and was all success, and all he had in that whole big apartment was two folding chairs and a card table that he and his wife just had to deal with, and that's when Braddock realized that this guy's no different than me. We're both, in the same fight, and to me, that was the most powerful scene in that movie. And to me, it kind of takes and puts it all in perspective. This game of boxing is not what it's always appeared to be. There's a lot of times, and the fighters themselves, put their heart and soul into things, and, we as fans are always so critical, but the deep stories, the inner stories, really a lot of times don't even come out. And that scene really was powerful to me. But
wow, that's great. Yeah, and I think one of the other aspects there is that boxing's about lying. Boxing, a fighter won't let you see how hurt he might be. And that there is that that aspect of showmanship and sort of holding up a persona. That's pretty wild. Yeah, I do want to check out the movie. I do have the Blu-ray. I just never watched it.
Well, I watched it on the Green Ray, and it was pretty good. So anyway, how did he make out in the title bout? Oh.
In title belt.
Wait! I want to see.
Actually,
I want to see you do that. I want to see you do that with a mouthful of coffee.
Oh, sorry about that. I thought I had a couple more seconds there. In the title bout game, I put him in light heavyweight because he did fight for the light heavyweight title against Loughran, so I did put him in against Andre Ward. And the first time they fought, Braddock wins a majority decision. The scores were 114 all, and then two scores of 115, 113 for Braddock. When they fight 100 times, Ward actually bests him. Braddock wins 31, loses 63, and he has 6 draws. He scored 8 knockouts. Of his 63 victories, Ward was able to score 11 knockouts. Which, you know, he only had one title shot at light heavyweight and he lost it. Okay, now against Anthony Joshua, the monster, the first time they fight, Joshua wins, unanimous decision. He has Braddock down in the 10th and the 11th. The scores were 115, 109, 116, 109, 117, 108. When they fight 100 times, however, Braddock does best him, 51 victories, 48 defeats, 1 draw. Braddock stopped him 19 times, and in his 48 wins, Anthony Joshua scored 15 KOs. When he fights Deontay Wilder, the first time they fight, Braddock wins by knockout in the 12th round at 2 minutes 54 seconds. When they fight 100 times, Deontay Wilder gets the better of him. Braddock only wins 43 and loses 54, and he has 3 draws. He scores 20 knockouts. Of the 54 victories Wilder had, he scored 15 knockouts. And then against Luis Ortiz, the first time they fight, Braddock wins on cuts at 34 seconds of the 9th round was when the referee stopped it. When they fight 100 times, Braddock does do slightly better. 44 victories, 42 defeats, 14 draws. And Braddock knocked him out 10 times. In the 42 victories, Ortiz was able to score 9 knockouts.
Where's your lawnmower guy today?
Yeah, I don't know where they are.
Well, they're throwing off the whole show, man. I was ready to mute them. But anyway, great job as usual, Alex. James Braddock, former world heavyweight champion. He was also a former world light heavyweight title challenger. He had a career record of 46 wins, 26 coming by knockout, 24 losses in which he was only stopped 2 times. 1 time by Lou Scosa in the early part of his career, and 1 time by Joe Louis in his loss when he lost the title. He did fight in an era of, he had 4 draws as well, did fight in an era of newspaper decisions where he fought had 5 wins, 2 losses, and 3 draws. He fought a total of 87 fights, 30% knockout ratio. He was inducted into the Ring Magazine Hall of Fame in 1964. He was inducted into the New Jersey Boxing Hall of Fame in 1969. And he was inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame in 2001. James Braddock, our blast from the past today. And as usual, Alex, great job. And we'll look forward to you next week. Or actually, I look forward to you later in the week because I want to get your thoughts on Pacquiao and where he goes. And there's not much other fights to talk about for this week, but if you got some time, give us a shout later in the week.
Will do.
All right, my man. Hey, go work on that mustache.
Okay, will do.
All right. Take it easy. That's my man, Alex Papali, giving us the blast from the past. Listen, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, my man Sal Santa Cola will be back with us, and we will read some emails. So we'll be back in 2.
Billy C will be right back. Part of the Billy C Boxing Network.
currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace?
Call Back Brace America at 1-800-290-8300.
Snacking has never been this exciting. At Graze.com, we combine wholesome ingredients with the flavors we all love to create over 100 exciting snacks. Like these. We'd love to send you a Graze sampler box for free. Just go to Graze.com, enter the code ENJOY36, and we'll mail your free box to your home or office. Join thousands of Grazers already in love with our exciting snacks. So come to Graze.com for your first box free.
Endless pools are an incredible alternative to traditional pools, making it easy and inexpensive to swim at home. Exercise year-round against a smooth current set to your desired pace and temperature. With our new underwater treadmill, you can walk or run without stressing your joints. Endless pools are simple to install and even simpler to maintain. The water stays crystal clear with almost no chlorine. Call for your free idea kit and experience the freedom of swimming at home.
Are you currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace?
Call Back Brace America at 1-800-290-8300.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts! Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning.
Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're listening and watching the Billy C. Show. Glad you could be with us. And don't forget, if you're watching us on a stream or even our experimental Facebook Live version of the show, don't forget the full-blown TV version, same version that we send to the networks, is available up on our YouTube channel. Just visit it, youtube.com/talkinboxing. That's TALKINBOXING. And we just finished our blast from the past this week. We had James Braddock. If you have a fighter that you want to learn about, just drop me an email, billy@talkinboxing, TALKINBOXING.com. Joining me again, my man, Sal Santa Cola. And Sal, we got some emails to read. You ready?
Yes, sir. Let's do it, bud.
We got the first one here is from my man Mike from Michigan. He says, "Okay, Billy C. Again, we're back to another controversial decision that should have went the other way, in my personal opinion. In the past, I've mentioned less subjectivity in scoring a fight. I've mentioned, which could even be more subjective, but the public would be happier, scoring based on what the viewing audience feels. The majority of the people I know and talk boxing with, every single person believe Manny won. I think that's got to count, or at a certain point, boxing will get its butt handed to it by the UFC for good. What about instant replay? Baseball uses it. Why can't boxing? Professional boxing have universal rules. I have no idea what the correct solution is, but if an overwhelming majority of fans feel that one fighter beat the other, since they usually pay for it, should have some type of say. The damage that Mayweather versus Pacquiao did, I believe, shows in pay-per-view numbers and even in overall viewership in general. And I admire Teddy Atlas, at least for standing up for what he believes. And although he can be a little too dramatic at times, I believe he's the only person who shows passion and conviction when commentating. I felt better when he told Chris Algieri, I thought you lost to Provodnikov, and Jeff Horn, I thought you lost. It takes some metal to do that, and I fully agree with him when he said exceeding expectations is not the same thing as winning. Any new thoughts about less subjectivity or more subjectivity? It's a hard thing to explain, Billy C. What do you think, Sal? Why don't you give your thoughts first?
It's a good email, and I definitely see some of his points. Like I said, I think maybe as honest and as forthcoming as Teddy Atlas is, I think he could have maybe toned it down just a little bit. I also think that he made some good valid points. I didn't see that fight being so one-sided, though. I really didn't, Bill. I told you I saw the fight. I watched it again once or twice, 2 times more, and I scored it in increments each round, in 1-minute rounds, in each sub-round. And I still had Manny Pacquiao winning by 1 point. But it does not mean it was such a one-sided fight where it could not have gone the other way, which it did.
Teddy is Teddy, and Teddy thinks he's right. But as far as having the fans score the fight, that could never work, Mike.
Never.
And I'll tell you why. When we watch fights on TV, and Teddy Atlas is a great example. You have a tendency. It's only human nature. There's no fault of anyone's or no problem with anyone watching and listening to the commentators. But it's human nature to be, wrapped up into what they're saying and see what they're saying you're seeing. A good rule of thumb is if you really want to watch a fight and have, a non-biased opinion and go with just your own opinion, watch the fight with no sound. We've done that many, many times, and it's shocking to see for yourself of how you would score a fight when you're making the decision without being enticed by a commentator's opinion. That's number one. Number two, the other issue that we have to keep in mind is that when you're judging a fight live, and I'm talking about the judges, they have the best seat in the house. They're sitting above, they're elevated above the ring, so they're looking, nothing is obscure in their vision, and they're watching the fight from 3 different viewpoints. One of the best things ESPN ever did in the past was when they put cameras on the judges and actually showed us a punch, and then the way the 3 judges saw that punch, how we saw it on TV and how they saw it from the angle they were sitting. And that truly explains why sometimes you see a judge's scorecard at askew with the others. Fighters have a tendency to feel comfortable in certain parts of the ring, and if they're a ring general, they're keeping their fighters in that part. I mean, is that something that you remember, Sal, that you felt comfortable in one specific part of the ring, or did you, try to control your opponent and fight him wherever he was?
Yeah, I pretty much fought him wherever he was, but I did move him and cut the ring off on him, and certainly, part of my preparation for a fight was to be comfortable no matter where I was, and not favor one or thing or another, and just feel acclimated to do what I have to do to bring out my best. So that, although I do see what you could hint to mean or whatever there, that had no bearing on my standpoint as my position in fighting. I just felt comfortable no matter where I was, in a sense, to do the best I can in any corner, any middle of the ring, anywhere I could do, I could do it.
A lot of times I've seen fighters try to bring their opponent to a certain part of the ring. Like today, some of the things that have changed, I think, with since you've fought, in your prime, is there's a lot more commercials on the mat. It seems, and sometimes those decals can be slick. And you'll see fighters that will try to avoid that, especially since most of your punching power comes from, the waist down, from your legs and stuff. And, if you want to push off and really get into a punch, if you don't feel comfortable with your footing, you might find yourself trying to, get off on your punches from certain points of the ring. Also, if you're an aggressive fighter, similar to your style when you fought, Sal, and you want to get your opponents against the ropes or in the corners to work the body or what have you, depending upon which spot you have as a judge, you may not be seeing these punches landing flushly, or they may be appearing to land flush when, if you were right up close and the action was happening in front of you, you might be noticing that the guy that's appearing to take the shots is actually avoiding a lot of those punches or blocking them with his mitts. So there's, judging is a lot. It's the same principle, Sal, when we say a Monday morning quarterback. It's a lot easier for us to be critical here when you're watching from your living room on the couch, having a couple of beers or whatever, and everything's an outrage, especially when you're hearing guys like Teddy Atlas screaming at you, telling you that these judges are corrupt, and he had it one-sided, and all of a sudden you're like, yeah, what he says. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. No, you make some good points, and yes, reflecting back and reviewing your question, yeah, I definitely would love to have always cut the ring off, cut the guy into the corner and keep him in that corner, and because that's where I did my best body work, and move side to side, and could do that with him on when he's on the ropes.
Well, you worked on cause? You were a body guy on cause? oh, you mean in the fights? Oh, okay, all right.
Absolutely.
No, but what I'm saying is, and if you have, let's say, you run that guy into a neutral corner, and you find yourself in that same neutral corner, multiple rounds, the judge that's further away is not getting a good view of whether you're landing punches or not, and his scorecard might be the one that everyone says, wow, what the hell fight was he watching? Well, from his vantage point, he didn't see any of the punches, right? I mean, we do have to give him the benefit of the doubt. I mean,
it's subject to a lot of that, and what you just said makes a lot of sense of why some judges do have different scores than the other two. There's a vantage point, and there's definitely a optimum point, but what you made a good case is just saying, hey, guess what? If Jeff Horn's punches, if Jeff Horn's back was to one of the judges when he had Manny on the ropes, the guy's not going to see the shots land as easily or as authoritative as maybe a guy sitting right in front of it or on the side where he can look at it. So that was a good point, and maybe that's why some of the judges do score differently.
Yeah, and I think that if anybody remembers when ESPN, when they had their regular Friday night series, one point they were doing some experiments, and one of the experiments was sticking a camera on the like a helmet cam on the judges, and they actually took a punch, and isolated it and said, okay, well, here's the punch that we said landed, and here's the view from Judge 1, 2, and 3. And it looked like 3 different punches. It was one of the most effective things that they could educate the audience on, and never went back to it. I thought that it was a great idea on the producers of ESPN, and they never went back to it. But hey, listen,
you're right.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
But I was going to say maybe they should implement 4 judges.
Well,
on each side.
I think that we are at a point in boxing where we need to make a change with our judging criteria. There's been too much, issues, and I think it could be remedied pretty simply if we require judges to go through some kind of and referees as well to go through some kind of intense training. And they have to graduate with a certain degree before they're licensed. Now, judges, of course, have to have more experience to become a professional judge than a trainer. Trainer, all a trainer needs is the cost of a license, a second's license, and poof, I've never trained a fighter in my life, but if I paid it $25 or $50, that whatever commission is, I could be the chief second in a fight tomorrow, and that's
Absolutely.
Not right. That's not
and
right.
You could be a good proficient trainer if you stay in the Holiday Inn Express tonight.
If I stay at the Holiday Inn Express, I'll be as instructional as Freddie Roach was on Saturday with Manny Pacquiao. That's for sure. But
oh boy.
Hey, listen, we have a couple other emails that I will not be able to get to today. I will read them tomorrow. So if you sent us an email and I did not read it, make sure you tune in to tomorrow's show because I will read it. And don't forget, If you do want to send us your thoughts, comments, concerns, or questions, feel free to email me. If you take the time to email me, I'll take the time to read it on air. The email address is billy@talkinboxing. That's TALKINBOXING.com. On this day, July 5th, in boxing history, in 1975, Alfredo Escalera knocks out Kanuki Shibata in the second round to win the WBC World Junior Lightweight title. Took place in Japan. On this day in 1986, Manny Pacquiao knocks out Cesar Polanco in the third round to regain the IBF Junior Bantamweight title, and that took place in Indonesia. On this day in 1984, Jiro Wantabe wins a 12-round decision over Peyo Punarat to win the WBC Junior Bantamweight title, and that took place in Japan. On this day in 1920, Benny Leonard knocks out Charlie White. There's a couple of easy names for me.
Yeah, right?
Charlie White in the ninth round in their fight in Michigan. The fight was supposed to be for Leonard's world lightweight title, but Benny Leonard came in overweight. He weighed in 137 and a quarter. So listen, boys and girls, they had a hard time making weight back in the day, too. And finally, on this day, July 5th, Stanley Ketchel, one of boxing's greatest all-time fighters. This was a former world middleweight champion that we never got to see really fight. Despite him having as many fights as he did, this guy was snuffed out by a bullet to his head early in his life, in his 20s. So we never got to see how great Stanley Ketchel was. But on this day, July 5th in 1909, Stanley Ketchel wins a 20-round decision over Billy Papke to retain his world middleweight title in Coloma, California. 3 months later, Ketchel would challenge Jack Johnson for the world heavyweight title. He was knocked out in the 10th round, and that fight took place on October 16th in 1909. That fight had some significance as well. As a matter of fact, Stanley Ketchel dropped Jack Johnson in that fight, and Jack Johnson got really pissed off and went after Ketchel and destroyed him. As a matter of fact, several of Stanley Ketchel's teeth were embedded in Jack Johnson's glove after that knockout.
Wow.
But, yeah, when you got a guy like Jack Johnson mad at you, Sal, the repercussions were pretty bad. But anyway, Hey, listen, I hope everybody had a great 4th of July, and we're back to our normal schedule. So I'll make sure I tell you guys this. Make sure you tune in tomorrow morning. Same bat time, same bat channel. Until then, ciao, baby.